that's grand. Okay. Me too, I'm ready. Okay, hello everybody. I'm going to turn my webcam off in a second just because where I am, I'm running my laptop through a tethered phone, which is going out to a real shonky 4G connection, which is heading through some trees, and it's all very, very random anyway. So, thank you all for coming. I just want to introduce myself. My name's Keaveny. I'd like to thank Dina and Veteran and everybody at Format C and AKC Medica for letting me to do this. And let's go. Right. Paul B's having problems with his sound. So, right, so I'm going to turn off my webcam now anyway, and we'll get to it. So, welcome everybody to the ethics of sources. Now, so the general theme I've chosen for this series of talks and demonstrations is the ethics of sources. Now, it's an exploration of how I find sources to work with from online or older legacy media. And I'm going to be demonstrating some of the techniques that I use on an everyday basis on my own work. I want to give an insight into how I work and what my thoughts and motivation are. So, the way I see it, we swim in an ocean of information, just as every desktop is a metaphor. The desktop is never real. The files it holds are never real. We move in a space which does not exist, pretending that it does. The internet is the same, as is the content that we find there. We can experience it and interact with it, and as neither places are real, we can cross between the two and bring back content, because in the digital there's no barrier between here and there, owned and non-owned. Each is an extension of the other. So, let's see. Desktop as metaphor. Are we leaping ahead here? Do I need that URL? Just want to guide this up there. So a video can look like, just bear with me a second here. All right. So a video can look like this. This is how we usually see video. But also look like this. So this is just looking at a video in an editor on Linux called Nano. So video can be both visual, but it can also look like information, but really both of them are the same. And it can also look and sound, more importantly, like this. You might want to turn your sound down. So, I've just missed the slides there. So the source you choose determines its form. So I want to show you how the choice of source can decide its final form because of its format or content. So when I look at a video source for use in my work, I also look for what codec it is originally encoded in, what wrapper, or AVI. By format, I mean what codec or container it is wrapped in. For example, H.264 in an MP4 container, or something like XVID or ZMBV in AVI. So, what do I mean by content? By content, I mean whether there is movement, or perhaps whether it's in black and white or color. If black and white, what kind of space, outline, and shadow there is. If the source is lo-fi, it's grainy and artifact prone. H.264 versus MPEG versus MS Video 1. As a quick example of this, it's the same file encoded in those formats. So first of all, we will show you. So this is just H.264. This is, yeah, so this is H.264. This is just a video I recorded on television the other day on a capture card. Okay. And this is MPEG 2 at low bit rate. That's H.264. Right, so this is MPEG 2 at low bit rate. And this, from the dawn of time, is MS Video 1, which is actually one of my favorite codecs. Now you can see the graininess and the bittiness in it. It's all very pixelated. And finally, this is H.261. So when I'm looking for sources, my 5 main sources are film, news footage, live broadcast, YouTube content, and live capture. So I want to show how various techniques can be suited to specific material. So during this first talk demonstration, I'll source film, news footage from live broadcast, YouTube content, and from live capture, and subsequently distress and recreate these in different ways over the course of the next few days. So I have to talk about ethics. What happens when I take a file? So I'll also be examining the reasons for and the ethics and consequences of sourcing and reusing found material and our responsibilities to the material from an open source perspective and a Creative Commons aspect. And I'm going to talk a little bit about copyright and my attitudes towards it and how that relates to me, remix culture and glitch art in particular. So, one of the distinguishing features of glitch art is that arising from the web and net art, it feeds on online content for its source material. It lives within the screen. So as a painter, I took my source material from real life. As a glitch artist, where do I get my sources from? So let's go to one of the primary resources I use, which is archive.org. So what am I looking for and where am I looking? Just... And why can't I get that? Oh, there we go. So this is archive.org. I'm sure a lot of you have been there before. So let's see what we can find on here. Feature films, sci-fi and horror. A big fan of film noir, so let's look for something not too long as well. The longer the film, the longer it takes to re-encode. So you're going to have to consider that as well when working like this, is how fast is your computer and how long will each format take to encode. If we're transcoding, generally it's quicker to transcode small sections of video rather than whole videos. Now, what's that one? So what am I looking for? So something short, preferably black and white with movement and sharpness to it, with space and outline and high contrast. If I'm looking for color, I'm probably looking for widescreen. These are choices as well to make. So widescreen versus 4:3. Like widescreen has a lot of detail, but I like 4:3 much better. So this is just us downloading it now using transmission. Okay. So if I'm going to be looking at a color film, what I generally tend to do is flick backwards and forwards through it, just to have a look at the textures I can see, the graininess, things like movement. So this is a film called The Pix that I just downloaded. You just flick through that and see what it's like. I like the movement of the cars there, that's kind of cool. And that bridge as well, kind of like the way it moves. That'll be fun. Interesting faces in there as well. Okay, so if I was going to download that, so generally the grainier film is color film, the more artifacts I've found you get, especially if you're data moshing. That's something to consider as well. And most of the films you find on archive.org are public domain as well. So, right. Oh, we just did. So this is using transmission to download film. Ah, there we go. So that's the second film we were just looking at there. You can see it's got the public domain mark on it. Not that one. Missing something anyway. So this is using transmission to download that film. And then we'll look for something different, something film noir. I love film noir. Black and white, there's something really interesting about the way that it breaks when you use it. Say something like H261. Let's just have a quick look at that. Yeah, there. Shadows. This is public domain again. Right. Oh, I'm going to choose the. Okay. Right. Now, where are we? So, it's important that movies are public domain because when you're using content you find on the internet, it's very easy for copyright bots to basically take your work down. That has actually happened to me a couple of times. So it depends on to what degree you break the film and how unrecognizable it is afterwards. So I could use a parented torrent as material. There is a method where you can like download a torrent, so I think it's about 85%, and then use that as just as a data mosh movie. But if you want to download the whole thing, it tends to get you on dodgier ground. I prefer to use public domain films because it avoids problems with things like copyright strikes on YouTube. And copyright does start to become an issue when you make and work and upload it. Even though the internet seems to be a place you can just take what you want, if you want to present unique works made out of those films as building blocks, it's best to err on the safe side, unless, of course, we're making a political point or referencing current events. More of that later when we get into live capture. And we could also download porn. Lots and lots of porn. But glitch art has a big place within it, known as erotic glitch and glitch porn. If one of the defining needs of glitch art is for movement and for data moshing, then porn has it all, and it's everywhere. And it's one of the best examinations and uses of porn in glitch art has been made by Dombara. But it does raise ethical questions. Again, the general title of the whole thing is ethics and ethics as sources. So you have to ask yourself, in any material that you're going to download and reuse, especially porn, is the content exploitative? If it's porn, is it consensual? Is it misogynistic? Is it uploaded with the permission of those involved, revenge porn? By using it, are we just continuing a cycle of exploitation of those already exploited? Now, I'm not here to answer those questions, only you can answer that yourself. So the prevalence of ease of access to porn is basically very problematical, as I say in that slide there. Content hosted in those places has sometimes been found to be revenge porn or non-consensual. So when downloading material to work with, we have to check our ethics. Is it exploitative? Is it consensual? Is it uploaded with the permission of those involved. So, but as I say, if we use it, are we just continuing a cycle of exploitation? Now, moving on from that, we could just take something from YouTube. Now, if we want to do that, we could just use something like YouTube Downloader, which is a command line script. And I've got a thing about Russian witch house at the moment, so let's download that. Show you in a second. Okay. So this one's actually quite a good candidate for data moshing. It's got a lot of color in it. Okay. So this is me just using YouTube download it on this film. I love this band, they're really great. And that is how ridiculously simple it is just to download something. So we could look at that as it is. So we'll just have a look at that video as it is. So this is the actual video. Not that bit. See, a lot of the time when you're looking at videos to actually see if they're suitable for data moshing, you're basically flipping as well. In that we don't really see whole things, we see clips of things, we see fragments of them. Now, in the video I just showed, there is an interesting question, apart from the fact it needs more movement. So there's another video that I just want to show you that I'm going to download later. Something with a bit of dancing. So, this is actually very good.
I'm Alexandra MacDonald, and I am a first soloist at the National Ballet of Canada. This season, I will be performing the role of Snow Queen in the Nutcracker. And today, I'll be showing you how to pirouette.
When I data mosh to a hex editor.
Step 1, I want to warm up my feet, so I'm going to do a few releves.
Stop sharing that now. So that was that. So why is there no sound on any of these videos that I'm showing you? Well, I did start uploading a lot of these videos in the last week or so. And the first few ones I left the sound on, and the copyright bots gave me takedown notices for them. So, and I haven't actually uploaded the original videos other than the links that I've shared with you there, because one of the surest ways of getting your work taken down and a copyright strike on YouTube is to include original video and sound. And I sure as hell don't want to allow some company to monetize the viewing of one of my videos through partnering. So I've taken the original sound off, and the video, as seen and played, are recorded on the desktop. So there are a couple of layers of obfuscation to keep ahead of the content police. Not a problem once you've actually worked on the video, but at this stage it is. So having downloaded these, we could always take some material from live broadcast, maybe something to the news. So I've actually, on my main computer, I have a capture card connected to a satellite box, and I can capture from that straight onto the computer. So let's see that working. Go to that slide there. So you can use a composite. What I basically use is a composite and S video. I'm going into a capture card on my computer, either straight from the satellite box, or if I'm capturing from my computer to another computer, I'll use a VGA to composite adapter. So I'll just show you that in action. So this is just video showing how I capture from. Oh, that's my desktop. Ooh. So this is the horror channel. In Europe, it's on the Astra satellite. I love it. You get so many bad films on it and bad film material. So this is me just capturing in something called Cheese Webcam Booth, which I actually use quite a lot. It captures to a format known as WebM. So it's Google's VP8 code. It's a really interesting codec, the things that it does when you edit it. And that's the news there. Also, when you think about it, Commercial T is a good resource because adverts often contain a lot of movement and fast cutting. I use these a lot, and Cheese, as I say, Cheese Webcam Booth, which is what this is, records to VP8. But we could also, what's that doing? Oh, I hadn't realized that. Oh yes, I think I'm just gonna, yeah. Oh yeah, so that's just an example of hex editing that format WebM, which Cheese Webcam Booth is capturing. So you can see it's very blocky, pixelated, very beautiful format. So we could also make our own damn content. We're supposed to be artists, damn it. So I use a lot of circuit bend cameras, and I'll just show you. Yeah, so as well as being, let's see, where have I got to? Oh yeah, so I've got to load up that video there. So this is one of my circuit bent cameras in action. I do actually use these quite a lot, but not in ways that you'd think of. So this is one of my cameras walking around where I am, and then I've edited that. Got a lot of dolls and heads, things like that around in the house because we collect things like that. As you can see, really interesting kind of artifacts there. That's all live capture other than the hex editing. So we could also use processing. So processing is interesting because as well as being able to capture from webcams or capture cards, you can distort video in real time. So you can use effects like slit scan, time displacement, and spatio-temporal disturbance, as well as being able to capture a series later be turned into video, and maybe hex editing them or running them through Glick codec. But I'm going to be talking about that on another day. So this is just processing, capturing from my capture card. So you can see on my desktop, I'm just going to start up. So that's just basically slit scan. So the capture card's being read by processing, and then it's doing this slit scan maneuver on the output, which is kind of interesting. I have actually made videos using this as well, but you could just as well use it for stills for later on. But you get this wonderful distorted moment where you can see faces stretching out endlessly and things like that. Kind of like. But also, so this one is spatiotemporal distortion. So again, this is processing. So what it does is it reads in the images or the video feed and then does this to it. Oh, hi, Camille. Hi. So again, this is the BBC News channel. It's quite a flexible program in that you can make it read from practice. I mean, I've had this thing hooked up to a Connect, all sorts of things. Now, this is time. This is the one that most people go for. This is time slip. So you can actually see everything starts twisting around, and this is be an interesting basis for a work, but I wouldn't use it as work in itself. And because of the way that the characters twist and move, again, that would be good for data moshing or other techniques. There's no reason why you couldn't just hook up a, say, a video camera and point it at yourself and do this as well. It's fairly simple. Oh, I thought I'd edited that down. Okay. Just sharing that. So that's using processing. Capture from my capture card, from webcam, and as I say, you can do things like slit scan, time displacement, spatiotemporal effects. Oh, we're not even there yet, are we? So if we can't use YouTube downloader or torrents or capture cards or webcams to capture what we see on the screen, we can always screen capture using, say, GTK record my desktop, which I'm going to have to find the video now. Ah, yes, there it is. Let's see. Okay. So this is just me capturing playback of a video on YouTube using GTK record my desktop. Using GTK record my desktop, so it's kind of like meta, it's recursive, which I kind of like. I like things which are recursive. So there are also certain questions that we can ask. In light of what I've been explaining and showing. The first, of course, is how ethical is this? The ethics of sources, remember. To simply take a source from online and turn it into something new. At what point does a work stop being derivative and start becoming unique in itself? So I do acknowledge that copyright exists, don't get me wrong. And as I've already noted, the audio in the video segments are shown is muted to get around YouTube copyright bots. So my original intention was to do this series of presentations and demonstrations live from my desktop, showing basically what my typical working day is of gathering material and working on it. Because one of the things we forget when we're doing or showing presentations like this, we leave out the fact that a lot of this takes time. I just wanted to show insights into how and why I do, but with bandwidth problems and dysfunctional broadband companies, they put paid to that. So I had to use YouTube to upload these sequences of videos, which I'm trying to kind of thread together as being a coherent desktop thing. In the online environment, the argument that copyright exists becomes moot, getting back to my main point. Everything is in one way or another copyable or rippable, either through software or hardware. Now, ethically, I don't want to steal somebody else's work and present it as my own. That's basically wrong. And we have arguments in GAC about this all the time. But I have no problem taking a digital medium and making something from it as a framework in the same way that I would in the past throw down a large number of shapes and forms onto canvas until I reach the point where something new arises from that. And I see taking online stuff in the same way. I choose what I choose carefully, looking for movement or textures that I know might work with my methods, and I proceed from there. Sometimes traces of the original sneak out, but so distorted and abused that they are in themselves something new and unique. Now, I also feel a responsibility when sharing what I do to share it under Creative Commons terms. Online is where I live. It's an ocean of content and software that I can take from, like a big sweet shop, but I also have to give back. I must allow my work to be shared and reused under the loosest of terms. In some ways, it's a two-way conversation with the medium, that is the net. To take, you have to give back. And there's also a responsibility to the material, maybe political, moral, technical. If I'm using news material, there is, I feel, a responsibility on my part, not to re-edit or misinterpret political themes, not to further hate or prejudice of any kind. I make my work on the back of software that I'm allowed to use for free and give to others for free, to change and use as I will, as long as I grant those same rights to other people. And I see my work in the same way. Without that software, I'd not be able to make the work that I do. I'd be stuck with basic Windows systems and wondering how to pay for video editing software or image editing software, or even something as basic as video playback software, all on hardware I already own. So, all the software that I use is free and open source, and it's from that philosophy that my own attitudes arise. But also from having seen the uses and abuses that traditional art has been put to. The unique object, the investment vehicle art of gallery stars like Hirst and Koons, and the exploitation of artists such as Jean-Michel Basquiat, and the gatekeeper mentality of the art establishment. So it's far better to me to publish my work online and allow anyone to use it and reuse it than to feed into a system which has become just another arm of investment banking. The power is the idea, the power to give away and the power to pass on ideas and techniques that empowers others who may never have thought of themselves as artists before. Remix, reuse, recycle, and grant others the right to do likewise. So now, oh, why can't I see my slide? I'm banned. I'm using my slide. Oh, okay. Have we frozen? Oh, great. So, any questions? Ah, I'm back. Yay, cool. Thanks, Gabriel. So, anybody with questions? Veteran, do you want to?
I mean, there's a bunch of questions in the chat. I mean,
yeah,
they're more remarks than questions, but maybe we can start the discussion from that. Or also, I'd like to note that it only broke at the end of your presentation, so that's good.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like it knew when to stop. That's always good. So I had a question.
Yeah, go on.
The first one.
You want to type it, and I'll kind of type it.
No, it's already in the chat. I'll just read it. It was more like a remark than a question. Then like what's happening to archive.org right now is that a lot of people are uploading stuff which isn't actually a public domain, and they are labeling it as public domain, while in fact it isn't public domain. And I mean, with some stuff it's pretty obvious. I mean, with new movies it's obvious that it's not public domain, but there are also some older movies which are marked as public domain, and they look like they should be public domain, but in fact they're not. So if you want to be 100% like legal and ethical and moral about remixing some of your work,
yeah,
or using that stuff in your work, you should definitely do more research on top of archive.org.
yeah. I've seen there have been disputes. Yes, definitely. On some of the stuff that's supposedly public domain. I acknowledge that. But I mean, my contention is, as well as trying to ensure as much as possible what I use is public domain, when I do take a source, which I know is not public domain, and we're all guilty of that, I see it as a material to manipulate and break in such a way that it becomes unique, in the sense of collage, I suppose. That would be my answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, if you change it so that it's not recognizable, it really doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, or you can also decide to not give a shit. You know, that's also fine.
Well, I think
higher stuff. I mean, and maybe if that's part of your work or something, that's also fine. You know, it's not.
Well, I think there's also the acknowledgement sent. Like the whole thing on GAC, and for those who don't know who GAC is, it's Glitch Artist Collective. It's the big collective that I'm part of on Facebook. There's a big thing with GAC that you acknowledge the source of what you're using. So if you take a source, you say, this is from that. So at least you're acknowledging it. So
Yeah, of course. I mean, at least you're that. Yeah, I mean, it's like what you're doing with it, who you're taking it from. I mean, it's one thing to take somebody's work who published it online and claim it's your own. It's another thing to like take 3 seconds from a Hollywood movie and then not mention that you took their.
Yeah. Well, that's theft. That's straight out theft.
Yeah.
Simple.
I mean, copyright owners would argue that this is also theft, but I mean,
would.
Yeah. But their overview on things, it's not the same, maybe. So I mean, that's about it.
So I see.
From my point, that's what I wanted to add. Like, I mean, I'm just looking for some other stuff. So just mind even so one way to do it is you can upload, just re-upload the video to YouTube, and if YouTube doesn't say it's copyrighted, then you're fine. I mean, that's how I do it.
Record my desktop within a desktop.
Yeah, okay, definitely. But I mean, if you want to be 100% sure, you know, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, I just make it so different that it's not, you know. I mean, the whole thing about the sourcing, why I wanted to start with sourcing was because it's one of those things that people kind of ask, and you get these moments when a lot of people are using the same sources. It kind of happened recently with archive.org. There's another guy who does some beautiful work, and when you start all pulling from the same source, the work, I think, starts to look the same. So it's kind of, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. So, any more?
Okay.
So, Paul, yeah. I see that one. Do I plan on addressing what makes a good glitch? It's subjective, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will talk about the technical side, like I talk about the technical side a lot, especially on Glitch Artist Collectors, as you've probably seen. Aesthetics. I think what makes good glitch, a good use of the source material that's novel, innovative, and not repetitive. So I've seen so many processing scripts which are people have just made, what is it? Pixel sorting, yes. Pixel sorting is like, and you just go, oh my God, I'm so over that, because originally it becomes beautiful. It's lovely pixel sorting, but then people overdo it. I think when you see something which really stretches the aesthetic of what glitch art is, then let's say the work of Thomas Collet, the French artist, what he does with data moshing, yeah, he is amazing. I think what he's doing is stretching the art form definitely, because he's taken something which a lot of people do and then made it unique in his own. And I know how he does it because I talked to him about it, and it is quite an incredible process. And he does it in such detail. And yes, he is amazing. Yeah, definitely. So what makes a good glitch? Something that's unexpected, stretches the aesthetic, and isn't repetitive, you know? Yeah, the detail does come through in his work. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, glitch art isn't separate to the art world. It does exist alongside it, maybe. It's hard to, I mean, when I start painting, I start on that whole kind of infrastructure, basically, kind of traditional art media thing. For a variety of reasons, most of which I still think are valid, because glitch art, new media, is a lot more accepting of different techniques and things. So I find it hard to evaluate glitch art in relation to other media. I kind of evaluate it within its own terms, really, and a few other movements like new aesthetic, vaporwave, things like that. We come from the internet. We must value it like the internet. Does that answer? Anybody else? Yes, we come from Mars. We do. That's the thing. I try and explain to like traditional artists what glitch art is, and it becomes very tricky. You know, I use computers, and a lot of traditional artists will just go, huh? A lot of them won't, but especially the younger ones, because they've got iPhones or Android in their pockets. But like, yeah, poo equals poo. I think that's probably actually the best summary. Poo equals poo. Yeah. If it's rubbish, it's rubbish. Yeah. So if we define glitch art through its own aesthetics. Oh, Jared, hello. I can actually hear you now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not just a bunch of audio feedback. No, okay. Cool. So I just like to comment upon the glitch art utilizing source from online. It's plenty different. It's really a lot of different than the paradigm you're normally taught in an art school, where everything is an original. It's not allowed to be multiplied. It's not allowed to be remixed, reused, while as in fact everything is a remix. So I think reusing this recycling found material is an important political statement, and I really appreciate every way you do it is a valid way for at least starting a discussion, and also really broadening the way that people consider art, which is really important.
I think to just pull that a bit further as well. Like, we are taught as traditional artists about the unique object. We are taught to make saleable unique objects. But most art, or traditional art, is based on something else. It refers back to something else. It's not unique. It uses forms from the last couple of thousand years of painting, Renaissance painting. It refers back to itself constantly. So even if it's not directly copying, it's still copying the ideas. So I suspect in some way traditional art in itself is a lie into itself, if you see what I mean. It still uses collage techniques, but not in an obvious way. It copies, say, formats, the way you place objects within a space, the way you do portraits in a certain way. And there's very few painters. Rebecca, who's here at the moment, actually, shout out to her, is one of the few painters I've actually seen in the last few years who's doing something interesting and different with painting just because of her attitude and the way she approaches it. So that's kind of my take on that, if that makes sense. That's fine, Rebecca. Yes, I do love your work. It is good painting. Some of the few stuff that I actually want to look at. Oh, what's veteran? Anybody else? Any more questions?
Hi, me again.
Yeah.
I think Vedran had a question about the processing scripts.
Yeah.
Like, are those are also like author software and found online, or it's scripts from the community, or do you modify them?
No, it's the same.
Thanks.
It's basically the same scripts. I'll actually give you a link later on Facebook and show you. But it's basically examples by the guys who put processing together originally, and they're just examples that you can download. I have modified them. Say if you're using a Kinect, the Kinect webcam for Xbox, you can actually use them, but you have to modify the scripts, and they're actually quite interesting when you use them like that. Ah, thank you too. So, any more questions, or shall we exit stage left followed by a bear?
Hey, so if nobody would be typing right now or don't have questions at this point, I suggest maybe we wrap up for today. And if there are any questions from anybody, they can maybe save them for tomorrow then. And we meet again at the same place, same time tomorrow, right? And until the end of the week. And Ian, should we prepare something for tomorrow, or we should just like be here on time and that's it?
Be here on time. Everybody be here on time. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for this. Okay. So we're gonna have a recording. Hopefully. So if anybody missed any reference, just see you tomorrow.
Well, eventually, just to say one more thing, I will eventually be putting up all the writing that I've done and all the videos and everything on my own blog as a readable kind of thing with links to videos and stuff eventually in the next few weeks. So that's it, really. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming and for listening. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.